Good afternoon. We have reassembled here, and thanks to the efforts of Amrut Srivastava, I think we are in a better frame of mind and better situation we have where audibility is not a big problem now, I guess. Am I right? Yeah. So we've been considering this book written by Madam Radhaji, The Way of Self-Knowledge. We have finished the introduction. We've also we have gone through the Know by Personal Experience. That was the first segment after the introduction. And then we went to the Sorrow and Evil, the second segment. And then we are now in Wisdom is Practical. Wisdom is practical. If it is not practical, it's of no use. So, wisdom is practical is where we are right now. And just for recapitulation, Radhaji was saying, when there is no division between me and the others, then a religious awareness emanates. And there is no separation between me and the other. Purity is regained. Swachhata is regained. And action emanates from religious awareness. That's what she says, religious awareness. It has nothing to do with religion, but an awareness which is methodical, very, very systematic. An awareness which is not something which is not scientific, we can even say. Something which goes with the method in which the awareness is built within. So this is what she said. And when there is that state of awareness, religious awareness, we can experience that glorious oneness. This is what she said. In that state, we naturally recognize the unity, the power of unity. A feeling of universal consciousness, that springs up, and in that state, everything becomes one. Everything becomes one. So that is the suggestion, or that is the idea Madam has given. Purity which is pristine, very pure, is regained. And purity in all its originality is regained. Purity which is connected to matter becomes impure, so the matter is taken away and purity gets connected with the spirit. So purity, the original form of it, is regained. And she says, an action born out of wisdom is what we seek, what we want. An action which is born out of wisdom is what we want. There is no impulsive action. Impulsive is something which is not properly thought of. You have given more importance to the impulse, more importance to the instinct. So that's not what it is. So you have everything you're doing, the action comes out of the emanation of wisdom. So that is the thing which is required actually. We are supposed to contemplate, meditate, and arrive at a state where we can act. If we are doing anything else in any other way, if we are giving more value to the impulsiveness which is there in us naturally, I think we are not in right action. That's what Madam was mentioning. Wisdom, as number of times we have seen today, is different from knowledge, and knowledge is something which we accumulate by collecting the facts. So that's not what we're looking for. It's not the accumulation of facts which we are talking of. We are talking in terms of acquiring wisdom which comes out of Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasa. This is the process. Listening and Manana, recalling it once again and again, and then dwelling on that, Nididhyasa. That gives you the complete way to take it forward. So wisdom in all its aspects, when we consider, it is different from knowledge, different from accumulation. And so this is how we see Madam explaining how wisdom is different from mere accumulation of knowledge. However much we may accumulate, that will not be of any consequence, and whatever little wisdom gained, that would add value. So, the action which comes out of knowledge or information could lead to impulsive behavior, but knowledge which comes out of wisdom is very balanced and very wise action. So, this is the reason why one should function from wisdom and not from mere collection of facts or knowledge. If there is action, one more qualification she is giving, if there is action from fragmentary information, even that information which is there not complete, but if it is a fragmentary information and its base of that very information is not even holistic, information also is not holistic, not complete, incomplete. So that sort of fragmentary information-based action will lead to emotional imbalances. Maybe people losing their balance, maybe people losing their method of acting with a lot of poise and grace. Emotionally, there could be togetherness. Because when a country is attacked by an outside agency, or another country is attacking us, normally we come together in an effort to fight that aggression or build up that unity which would help in the people fighting in the army. We would help them because we're all coming together. Emotionally, our thoughts which goes to the army might help. That's only temporary, she says. That's something which happens very often when there is a foreign external aggression. On the other hand, wisdom being of a totally different character, and the quality of action which would lead us will be to a state of unifying oneness, unifying nature. It will bring everything together. The relationship in such a state of unification, if the man can perceive that unity with his mental capabilities, he can experience oneness. How does one experience oneness? She says, the state of unification, if that thing continues, the relationship is formed between the individual and that state of oneness. That perception, that experience of oneness, that will lead to a state of wisdom-based action. It is not based on emotion which is connected to knowledge. This is based on wisdom. So this is wisdom practical, as she is saying. Now, next statement of the author in this segment of wisdom is practical, is when there is a difference or divergence between thought and action. There is a difference between thought and action. Normally, we think at one particular speed. If that same speed is maintained, maybe the coordination is there between speech and the thought. But sometimes this thinks faster and this comes slow, then there is divergence, there is gap. So sometimes that sort of a miscommunication comes in, mispronouncing of the statements happens, because this is saying one thing and the voice is saying something else. So that divergence between thought and action, differences if it exists between theory and practice. This is again another next level. The difference if it exists between theory and practice. I know the theory, I know what I should do, but in practice, I'm not there. So there is a big gap between theory and practice. If that is there, then there is no wisdom. When there is a gap between theory and practice, there is no wisdom. Both of them are entwined together, there is wisdom. So this is the next stage of explanation of wisdom being practical. When there is real coordination between thought and action, when there is real coordination between thought and action, all the actions are based on wisdom, and so it will be of unifying nature, beneficial to the mankind in general. There is no individual feeling that I should gain from that. There is always the case of we coming in there. So unification brings in that sense of largeness about it, and there is wisdom-based action, which is unification of all the purposes of the humanity in general. So when there is a gap between theory and practice, as we have seen, there is absence of wisdom and there is confusion, chaos, and all the rest of it. So this is what she is saying. So there should be consonance between theory and practice. We talk of it, but then we try our level best to be the same. What we think or what we preach as theory and what we also practice would be the same. So the theory and practice being one, I think there would be tremendous advantage the humanity gets, leave alone the person who is doing it. The humanity gets a lot of energy from that sort of wise, wisdom-based action. Example, small example given. I know I have to be truthful at all times with my dealings and interactions with people. I know I have to be truthful at all times with my dealings with all people. I know it is a theory. I know it as a theory, which is very valid. But my actions are not based on that theory, which I hold very dear to my heart, that I have to be truthful. There is absence of wisdom. I'll strike a personal note again here. I was doing my CA apprenticeship days. Then there was an occasion where all my colleagues, co-apprentices, told me to utter a lie to escape punishment. They wanted me to utter a lie to escape punishment. And we close on Friday and then we open on Monday. Only 5 days a week. Lovelock and Lewis used to work like that. And I was quite not within myself, quite disturbed. And my grandfather saw that and asked me, is there something going on in you which is disturbing you? Then I told him, this is the problem. I'm being forced by my colleagues, my co-apprentices, that I should lie to escape punishment. And I'm not for it, but then I'm in a dilemma. He said, you're in a dilemma. For 1 second, I didn't know what he was suggesting. Then he said, even if your life goes, why should you lie? Even if your life goes, why should you lie? I got the message. The Monday morning, I walked straight into the cabin of the partner. Partner is the person who is in charge of or he's the head of the branch. I still remember the name, Balasubramaniam. And he was boiling when he saw me. And I knew he was angry. The other person has fed so much of information, so naturally he was very upset. And then he was asking me for the sake of asking, what is that I have to offer as an explanation? I told the truth, which exactly is what I know and what has happened. But he was not prepared to take that. He was not prepared to take that. And he said, you are being punished. You will not go for any tour from now onwards. I said namaste and came out. And when I came back home, my grandfather asked me, how did the day go? He didn't ask me any other, how did the day go? I said, yes, I went and confessed the truth, which I know is truth within me, but I got this as a reward or punishment, whatever it is. Fine, no problem. These are all not some things which are happening now. Somewhere it happened in the past, it's coming into action now. So don't bother. You will be there at least to take care of the family when I go on tour. So this perhaps is the reason why this punishment has come your way. So take it positively. So that's how it happened. I tell you how people teach you with their personal experience and how they would pack so much of wisdom in the way he said, even if you have to lose your life, why do you have to lie? So that is something which stood with me. And like one of the gentlemen, when Goyalji was asking who voted, who was the 11th person, that person put up his hand and said, I voted. So that's the type of people we need actually. Even if he has gone against, no problem, but he's got the guts to say, truth, I have voted against you. This is something very, very needed in this world, but very few practice it because there is a divergence between theory and action. So I believe this is something which we all have to think very seriously, how there could be other things. We have just given an example of truthfulness. There could be anything which we consider as a value, an eternal value, which we hold very dear to our heart, whether that is only a theory or it is also translated into practice. If there is a gap between, then wisdom is not taking place, confusion is what is taking place, chaos is what is being created. So we need to understand what are all the things which we still can add to that. We can imagine, we can stretch our imagination. And when the convergence takes place between theory and practice, they come together. Theory and practice come together. Life is based on that sound theory of honesty and truthfulness, which are of eternal value. There is nothing transient about it. And HPB says in one of the introductions in the first, on the top she used to give always quotations. The lie goes faster down the slope. The lie goes faster. Lie means not something which is truthful, goes down the slope faster. But the truth has to climb the hill. So it's difficult to establish truth unless we have courage to hold on to the truth. It's difficult to take it forward. So if I want to practice this truthfulness, say for example, I need to function with the wisdom which that convergence brings between theory and practice, and internally I'll become stronger whenever there is the convergence taking place bit by bit, and perhaps it goes to a stage where there is absolutely no gap between theory and practice, and we realize that one thing and oneness and the wisdom which is backed up in all that convergence. Wisdom comes out of that sort of a convergence between theory and practice. This is what the second stage of what Madam has suggested as to how wisdom should be practical. If it is not of practical use, what use is wisdom? I have all the things which I am supposed to do when I go through the karma sannyasa yoga of the Bhagavad Gita. But I don't do it. I know it as a theory. I know all the slokas by heart, but I don't translate that into action. Talking about Bhagavad Gita, Radhaji was very fond of, I told you in the morning, Dakshinamurti and Bhagavad Gita. There used to be a gentleman from Karnataka, and at the end of the South Indian Conference, the gentleman used to chant, and she would listen with the eyes closed. And you know, she is a scholar from Banaras Hindu University. She has done this post-graduation in Sanskrit. So, a lady with such fineness in artistic capacities, because Bharatanatyam dancer, and someone who is very good at Sanskrit. Naturally, she was the director of the Adyar Library and Research Center for a number of years. And during her period, so many special treatises came out. Maybe something to do with Lalita Sahasranama of Bhaskara Bhatta, that commentary of Bhaskara, and then Vishnu Sahasranama's commentaries. There were so many scholars who were appointed those days, at least half a dozen of them I know by name. And they were functioning there. They were perhaps people who were all the time pouring into the books and writing the commentaries which were edited by Madam Radha Baniye and published. So we had number of publications through the Adyar Library and International Research Center. You know who started the Adyar Library? It is Henry Steele Olcott, by collecting various manuscripts from wherever they were available in the world. That's how he started. In fact, it is one of the places where the PhD scholars of Indology come and work. So she was associated with that project. And why I'm saying all this, everything she did with that sort of I have to do this because there is wisdom in doing it. There is purpose in doing it. There is overall purpose which is serving the welfare of all the people concerned. So that was the holy idea with which she functioned. So I guess this is something which you have to learn and emulate from Madam Radhaji. So that's the gist about practical wisdom or practical theosophy. And she says the theosophical study implies, means it goes without saying, implies that all contacts and relationships with the outside world, theosophical study, author says, implies that all contacts and relationship with the outside world should lead us towards that indivisible holistic being. That's the purpose. We should go towards that indivisible, not individualistic, indivisible holistic being. The B is capital. You must have seen the expression of beingness in the sacred doctrine. Beingness. Can you describe the sweetness of a mango? You can describe the mango by the color, maybe by that, whatever it looks like. But beingness, like sweetness, cannot be put in words. And that beingness is what Madam Blavatsky stresses. And so here, indivisible holistic being, our journey can be towards that when our contacts, when our relationships with the outside world should be so pure, should be based on such wisdom that it would take us nearer to the indivisible holistic being. I need some water. The manifestation of various forms, thank you. The manifestation of various forms is as per a divine plan. The manifestation of various forms is as per the divine plan. We know there is a divine plan. We're not talking about the book. We're talking about the divine plan which exists in the universe. There is a book by that name, Divine Plan. There is a purpose behind the divine plan, which is evolution of all forms. Evolution of all forms. Some are simultaneous. When man is evolving, the animal also is evolving. The plant is becoming a tree and that's evolving. So there is a simultaneous evolution taking place. So evolution of all forms is taking place as per the divine plan. And we know, as per the writings of Madame Blavatsky, there is an intelligent soul who is in charge of all this in each kingdom. He is called the Dhyani Chauhan. Chauhan is a lord. Dhyani is meditative lord, a person who meditates and guides. So he is there for everything. Not only this mineral, vegetable and animal and human kingdom, we also have the elementary kingdoms 1, 2, 3. Even there is that intelligent force working, helping that to evolve. Oh God. This variety of forms, which is a fact of nature, has put the human mind into shackles. Madam says, has put the human mind into shackles. Bandhana means shackles. And humans get lost in these forms. That means these forms are more connected to the matter. Matter is there, the major portion of it is matter. So the human mind gets into shackles and humans get lost in these forms. And the human being is overtaken by illusion, sorrow and evil. This illusion that one is separate from the other is resulting in strife, struggle, competition, and the value of cooperation is missing. A lot of people don't really understand what cooperation means. Co-operate. It is used very loosely to say that so and so is not cooperating with me, means he is not listening to me. That's not the thing. The purpose being one, we work together. Cooperate. That's the real meaning. We are cooperating. He is not cooperating means he is not listening as we normally listen is not the right connotation for that. She says, Madam Radhaji says, when this illusion disappears from our inner vision, not the external vision, mind you, from the inner vision, the illusion disappears, and that inner vision is very clear. That puts our mind, our higher mind. When we say mind at this level, it is always the higher mind. That realizes the ultimate unity. There are few people who we practice a sort of meditation which is based on theosophical ideas, where we negate what is lower and then propel ourselves to the higher. Slowly it takes place. Maybe sometimes some people take 6 months to get out of the idea that I am the physical body, because the literature says maybe we have spent eons of time, maybe janmas have taken place where we think, every thought, this physical form is everything. So we move out of the physical form. Physical form also means physical body. physical body, extension of that is etheric double, which is doing a very important job of holding on to the prana tattva. So that's doing a great job, in fact. But then that's an extension, and we all know when actual death takes place, the physical body falls here and the etheric double falls at the door. That's how the death is complete, when the etheric double also falls, when the prana tattva escapes into the, as people say, into the ether. So that etheric double also is overtaken or dropped. Then we have the most troublesome astral body which is there with us, with all sorts of habits, all that which have formed. So if that is understood carefully, and if we cleanse that, we have got a tremendous power within us which can cleanse the physical body from inside, not the external washing which we are talking about when we do what is called bathing in the morning. The inside being cleansed, we have that power of our own sankalpa. So if that happens, the physical is cleansed, the etheric double is cleansed, the astral body is cleansed. So if you search your astral body, you don't get to see anything which is looking like a habit or looking like a vasana which you carried from some time. That's the work you have done with your astral body. If that happens, that cleansing happens. There is another advantage of cleansing the astral body. See, when people pass away, they spend a lot of time not able to drop the astral body. It takes a lot of time. Depends on how you lived on the earth with a lot of habits, a lot of practices which are not perhaps required to be considered as good. So all those things will trouble us. So if we are someone who have cleansed here while living here the astral body, what happens is it's like a hopping flight. I'm going from here to Hyderabad via Bhubaneswar. Let us say via Bhubaneswar. It stops there for half an hour and then it goes back to Hyderabad. So it's like a hopping flight. You spend very minimum time and you move on to the next. Even the next is quite a difficult place because that is where the emotions take place and one hand is stretched towards the lower astral body, the lower mental. That's what divides everything. We are also covering a bit of normal theory of theosophy, so which is, I guess, the purpose of study. So we are getting into that lower mental world where everything is appearing as division. He is different, I am different, she is different. All these things are happening and we compare with each other. Oh, he is that and I am here. So all these things are the work of the lower mental body. Even if that is dropped, even that has a death, then the lower quaternary is completely gone. But it takes a lot of time. It all depends on how my physical life is. And Radhaji says once when she was being talking about, or she was asked about meditation, she says if your daily physical life is proper, based on true values, then there's no problem with your meditation. But if this is something which is happening and this is in divergence with what I'm trying to do while I'm sitting in meditation, meditation will not come easy. Because I'm doing something wrong here, I'm trying to look at the finer aspects, which is not possible. So unless there is an improvement here in my daily life, I have shaken off all those things which I don't want to carry with me, I will not be able to sit quietly. Even if I don't close my eyes, I can meditate, she used to say. The open-eyed meditation which the Buddhists also talk about. We need not have to close our eyes to meditate. And their wonderful person by name Aike Taimini, Iqbal Krishna Taimini, and he used to come to direct the school of the wisdom. He used to stay very close to the international headquarters hall in the hind portion of the building where Theosophy Science Study Group used to function. And he had a very warm smile whenever people see him on the road. And he would first do this. before we can do this. So we used to wonder how such a person is such a wise person, an authority in the Shiva Sutras, and a person who has specialized in yoga. The book somebody was mentioning in the morning, the self-culture, and so many books, the science of yoga, and so many things. And how he is quick to say namaste before even you think I'll say namaste, he's finished it. So I once asked him, "Uncle, can I come and see you sometime?" "Yeah, anytime, yes, you can come." Then I went and saw him. He was lying down. And I sat at the outside room. There is a place where one can sit. And I was sitting there and I was looking inside then he found that somebody is there. And then he said, "May I know who is there?" I said, "I'm Krishna. I asked you permission to come in." "He should have walked in." I said, "Sir, you were sleeping." No. I wasn't sleeping. My back doesn't support me. I can't sit straight in a chair. So I meditate like this. So meditation is possible. It is something to do with the mind. So the posture is something which is suggested because the energy flows from Mooladhara to the chakra. But it can also flow like this. That's what he said. So that was he could do it. Maybe if we try, maybe we are not successful, I wouldn't know. But this is what Mr. Taimini was. Professor Taimini was from Allahabad. He used to come very, very regularly. Those days, 6 months, one director of studies, not like what we are having now. 6 months course, one director of studies. Sometimes he used to direct both the sessions. So he used to come and address youth lodge also. He will come down so easily, makes available whatever is he can offer, so that young people can understand what he's trying to say. That is what I'm saying, that we should be able to drop the jargon of the theosophical literature and still reach youngsters over there in colleges and schools. 10th class is the right place, right time to tap him, but talk to him with no dosage of the technical jargon. Suppose we say the planes or the bodies and things like that, that become a problem. So perhaps this is what these people have taught and gone, and we need to go. For them, wisdom is practical. Wisdom is practical. If it is not practical, as we said a number of times, it's of no use or avail. So this is what she's trying to stress on, emphasize on. And we have been listening to this. There is unity behind diversity. There is all this we know as theory, but realizing it as a practice, realizing as a principle is something which we have to do with our inner perception or inner higher mental. That's what we have to use. So when we observe this oneness, when we closely observe this oneness, with all our sincere efforts and with all intensity, there should be real intensity in our purpose, in our action. So we are then capable of understanding the underlying oneness. So it is more to do with the practice of applying the principles and not more with the study of principles or reading of the principles what leads you to oneness. It is something which we will have to consider very deeply within and realize and hold on to that oneness. And which is that unifying force behind all forms, all forms. There is a beautiful Kirtana by Tyagaraja, who is one of the famous persons who taught a lot of philosophy through his Kirtanas. He says, Chimalo, Brahmalo, and as well as Parabrahma. He means Brahma means Parabrahma. All are same. But we seem to be thinking, I have been educated as a chartered accountant, so I am different. The other person is just a clerk, so he is different, so I can impose my will on him and things like that. But if you embrace him into that oneness and take him along, I tell you, even today, after 20, 25 years of leaving my job, people still call me. and say, "Sir, I saw you in my dream." So this is how it happens, because we have done it with a lot of love and affection. And this is happening. I think it is true with many people who have worked in organizations with a lot of love and concern. And this is something which we need to take it forward. The wisdom should be made practical. Radhaji is talking about the forms, the birth of form, the studied dissolution of form. When there is a birth of form, there is also the dissolution of form. As far as the matter is concerned, it dissolves. This takes place continuously, she says. She quotes Lord Buddha, who said, all compounded things should be uncompounded. All compounded things which came together has to become separate again, uncompounded. So forms which are formed by integration, should get disintegrated. So that's how we say, this is made of the Panchabhutas, it goes back to the Panchabhutas. That's what we say. The body goes back to the Panchabhutas. And there are other bodies which are absorbed by the other planes. Whenever the death takes place in the astral, and the next one, that particular plane takes care of that. And perhaps, yes, the permanent atom which we keep talking about in the advanced studies, Powell talks about it, Leadbeater talked about it, so Powell talked about it. Most of Powell's writings are based on Leadbeater's. So all forms, some which are beautiful, noble, and also very real, also have to change. They also have to disintegrate. It may be a very beautiful form, still it has to yield to the passage of time, and that will disintegrate. These two will go. That's what he's saying. There is nothing which is permanent as far as forms are concerned. One thing which is permanent is change. Change is permanent. We try to stop the change by not cooperating with the change. We think change is something which we can dispense with. No, it overtakes, and change is permanent. So all forms, all systems, all civilizations, she talks about civilizations, it's men who make the civilizations. All these outer, external things must perish, and will rise again like that bird phoenix. You know that bird phoenix? It gets burnt and again comes out of ashes. So then like that, all the civilizations have come back, maybe with a different name. The Atlantean has gone down under the sea. But yes, we know people who lived in the Atlantean and what they contributed to us. So all these civilizations will rise again at a different time with a different purpose. And she quotes letter number 16 from the Masters. It is referred by the author. What is objective life is but a panorama of vivid unrealities. What is objective life is but a panorama of vivid unrealities. We see it as objective things, but it is included in that compass and the huge canvas which is full of vivid unrealities. If we are caught in the form, we will be lost in illusion. If we are caught in the form, we are lost in illusion. So she says man should realize through contemplation. This is the stress. This is the method. There is no other method. Study, contemplation, self-introspection, service, all these are the methods. So contemplation and keen observation, and see through this phenomenal world which is full of phenomena, objective things. If you can see through this phenomenal world and perceive the power of unity, perception is possible only with the inner eye. The higher mental only can do it. If it can be done that way, and we will reach the trans-phenomenal world. We'll reach the trans-phenomenal world. This is straight from the book. That power can only be perceived not by using senses of sight, smell, or touch. It cannot be perceived like that. This is perceived by man who desires perception. Who desires perception. The author says, there is a beautiful book, The Ideal and the White Lotus. It's more of a novel than a text of theosophy, but then a lot of truths. The 3 truths of theosophy are from that book. And author is saying, the matter part of the form, the matter portion of the form can be destroyed. But Madame Blavatsky says if you destroy glass, it becomes pieces. If pieces are destroyed, particles of glasses remain. So it's also very difficult to completely eliminate matter. But then matter can change. Matter forms can change. So here she is saying, if the form can be destroyed or changed, the energy of the form remains forever. Perhaps this is what Madame Blavatsky is talking about. The energy of the form remains. So what is the energy of a person who has passed away? We get nearer to that consciousness. When I think of my grandfather, I can go nearer to the consciousness of my grandfather. That's energy which is there. Maybe he is not anywhere near where I can see him, but that consciousness is there, that energy is there. So matter is gone, but the energy is there. The theosophist learns that all forms are mutable, changeable, and are sometimes compounded to produce another form. 2 things come together to produce a third one. Chemistry talks about all that. But there is an unseen unity behind all this. And that is perceivable through the higher mind. And the one who has got the sense of perception can perceive. And if he is not careful enough, he will not be able to perceive. He has to be very attentive and wanting to learn the capacity to perceive is also an exercise, a sadhana, a way in which one moves forward. So, to see the immutable which doesn't change, which is eternal, see the form which is immutable and the one which is not compounded, we need to get into the mode of, again, contemplation and deep meditation. This is the way forward, embracing the wisdom practical. So, daily observation of life should lead us to that quiet period of pondering, and that pondering over leads us to have a glimpse of that one underlying, unifying existence. So that real one, that real unity is incapable of getting divided. It can't be divided, it's one. We talked about absolute. We said there's a perfect circle which we have drawn using a compass. And that circle, if I remove a portion of it, it cannot be called absolute. So similarly, this real one cannot be, the unity cannot be divided. In this objective world, in this world which is full of objects, one becomes many. In the subjective world, there is only one thing, unity. In the objective world, one becomes many. In the subjective world, there is only one thing, and that becomes only one. There is unity there. So our inner sight, our inner perception, the inner eye working for that inner sight, shaded and covered by the forms which we see. How we are not able to see the inner unity is because the outer forms have covered it. Outer forms have covered it, so we are not able to see inside. There is a small lamp perhaps burning inside. We're not able to see because it's covered by soot. We were talking about hurricane lamp yesterday. Hurricane lamp used, Padma was also listening. Padma was perhaps also contributed to that. We used to clean that hurricane lamp with the white powder which we use for putting kolam, as we call it. And then that used to give bright light. And if that is all covered by soot, light doesn't come out. So we need to do that cleansing inside, not cleansing externally, but cleansing inside. So that needs to happen. That's what Madam is saying. Otherwise, we will not see, we will not perceive. And these forms, over a period of time, will perish, but we are clinging on to those forms which will perish. We are transient forms which are holding on to, and we need to leave that. So, immortality or amrutatva, immortality means there is no death to it, is available for that person who has not lost in the details of these forms. If a person is not caught up in forms, he is living with immortality. If he is caught in forms, he is mortal, like the forms. He becomes mortal. But he can raise himself to the level of immortality if he is off these forms. His inner sight, or if you may say so, the intuition, the faculties of Buddhic plane, the sixth principle, permits one to see more and more of that inner unity, inner essence, which is immortal, which has no beginning or end. This is where she stops Wisdom Practical. So it's 4 o'clock now. Maybe we started just a trifle late, and we can perhaps go because we need to complete our program, and there are the reception there, and then perhaps the Mystic Star. So can we call it a day? Shall we stop here? Or one or two questions you would like to ask? Maybe discussion is also part of the program. So I'm just asking one question or two questions should be all right. Brief questions, and if possible, answers will be there. Pardon? Yes. Pardon?
Nature has no ability in it. A small sentence is there. Page number 13.
Okay. Yes. Nature?
Page number 13, second paragraph.
Yes.
Nature has no evil in it.
Nature has no evil in it. It's all good. Nature is all good. Ah. Ah.
Man is also an inseparable part of nature. Did it?
Man.
Man.
Yes.
Human being.
Mm.
Is inseparable part of nature.
Yes.
How do we acquire it?
We have our vasanas, as we call it, from the previous birth, or we are affected by the matter which has taken us over, and we embrace the matter. We want to possess the matter. We want to hold on to the matter. So impurities set in. Otherwise, left to himself, like a child when it is born, sinless and absolutely pure. Absolutely pure. But over a period of time, it gathers various influences, maybe from parents, from grandparents, various, no, don't share this with others. If that statement goes, no, keep it away. Somebody is coming. That this doll is very precious, keep it away. Suppose that is something which I teach my child, evil is setting in, which is not natural, but it is something which is happening because the inputs are like that. The grasping is like that. So that's how man becomes impure.
What is the
Yeah.
letter number 10 or letter number 18? human consciousness.
Hello.
Which
Audio agreeable?
acquired from these animal kingdom or millions of million lives we have passed. So that selfishness is still within us. That creates our pride, ego, and all these things like this.
Yes.
So that is reflected in our day-to-day life and also environment, nature.
To become unselfish, to-
Spiritual facts. We know spiritual knowledge, but why they distinguish between knowledge of spiritual facts?
I think she made it very, very clear. Mere accumulation of facts is only knowledge. That knowledge can be transformed into wisdom when I spend a lot of time on it, think about it, contemplate on it, make that essence as mine. It becomes wisdom. So, that fact is wisdom. Just mere collection of facts, information is knowledge. So, beyond facts, beyond words, there is wisdom. Truth, as Krishnamurti says, is the pathless land. So, we should go towards that and we should evolve from our existing state to the state where we go beyond words. Words are here only in this physical world. Language is here. The next plane, there is no language. Astral plane, there is no language. But we get up in the morning, translate what all happened in the dream to my mother tongue. I could perhaps dream it in Tamil or English. So I'll convert it and tell somebody, oh, this is the dream I got. But there is no language there. Language is here. So one has to go beyond words, go beyond ordinary facts, which are just accumulation of information. I think she has made it more than clear a couple of times. Knowledge is different, wisdom is different. The whole thing is talking about wisdom. The way to self-knowledge means Atma Vidya is gaining wisdom, not just knowing about what is Atma Vidya theoretically. Suppose I read Atma Bodha of Shankaracharya, I get some information. Like I also go through the Dakshinamurti Stotra and I talk about Chitram Vato Taror Mule. In fact, Madam Radhaji started her 2011 convention lecture with this quotation. So, if that is not properly interpreted, not properly understood, and we have not converted that into wisdom, it is only a sloka which I can repeat, drop of the hat. Does it help? It won't help. Even if I don't know by heart, but if I know the essence, I've made that essence mine, it becomes wisdom. This is the difference.
Sir, there are two questions there from C.A. Raj online.
I think time is there, Madam, sir? Time.
Last one. There is some online question.
Okay.
Last question.
Is it audible? Will it be audible here?
He just asked a question whether the change is permanent and whether the change is permanent in nature as you say. That was his ask.
Can
Repeat the question, please, slowly. Whether the change
Short, huh?
Whether the change is permanent in nature as you said.
Change is permanent, yes.
Yeah, he is asking.
Yes, change is the only thing which is permanent. We can't stop change. That's the only thing which is permanent. Yes, you can add any adjectives to it, but change is there. Mutation is something which is very natural.
Hasmukh Dubalji, he is here. You got your answer, sir? He is on the screen.
Yeah, he's there. Yeah, I'm able to see him. Oh, good. Raj K. Samastipur. He spoke.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I make a question. Change, you say change is permanent. Whether the truth is changeable.
Change is permanent.
Truth is only permanent things. Yeah. Then truth changeable.
Truth, huh? You're saying truth is changeable?
Truth may be changed.
Change is
And
something.
if truth may not change, then change is not permanent.
I am not getting him.
Kindly repeat it. Now you give the writing in chat box. We will answer tomorrow.
Yeah.
He has written in the chat box.
Read it. I've answered, I think. Yes.
He has given the question whether change is permanent in nature, as you stated.
Yes. Yeah, I told him.
Mr. Hasmukh Dubari is asking,
Divine plan is evolution. So these gods in different parts of the world, as you are determining, are to evolution.
Yes. There is the individual karma, there is the national karma, there is the international karma. So all these wars which are happening because of selfish desires of each individual. Israel occupied Palestine long time back. Yasser Arafat, if you remember that man with a hood and used to keep moving from one roof to another roof. He would not sleep under the same roof every night. That person was fighting for liberation of Palestine because these people occupied the land. And that is exactly what they are trying to get back. And we're not. That selfishness which the masters talked about, selfishness to grab others, selfishness to grab others' property is something which has come about, and that is the cause of war. I have some selfish motive. I want to occupy the other country. I want to defeat the other country. That's why the war. And there is a lot of distress, killing. All this is because of one person. For example, the Second World War, the Hitler, he decided, yes, I'll go and get everyone under my control. So that's the false idea which he had.
Sir, you got your answer?
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah. I think I've answered this question if that is the question.
I raised one question regarding the divine plan. Divine plan is evolution of all the kingdoms. So, if you see in the world that there are wars in different parts of the world, are they not detrimental to the evolution and the divine plan is affected? That's my question.
Yes. We also talked about certain civilizations disappearing, certain civilizations coming up. So it's all in the plan. Maybe the karma of that particular nation is something which is so many people traveling in an aeroplane, for example, 600 people in an aeroplane or 300 people in an aeroplane. It gets crashed sometimes. Why? The entire group had the same sort of karma which they carried. That's group karma. The national karma is there. So they are also trying to, it is the leaders which have thrust that karma on the individuals living in the country. So they are facing it. So the national karma is something which they face. And of course, yes, a lot of loss of life is there. And that's also in the plan. That's also in the plan. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. All questions are over.
What is the cutoff?